What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Week 3 XFL Preview Show here on YouTube, presented by FantasyCruncher.com. I'm CJ Kaltenbach, and we're going to run you through Week 3. This is the second take. I literally did a first take earlier, and then a ton of injury news came out, and I kind of just decided to throw it away and get you a better show. Actually, a couple of pieces of news caught me really off guard. So I'm glad I get another crack at it because this information will be fresher and it'll be a little bit better for you. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Houston at Tampa. The Fantasy Cruncher line is 4.5, but I'm going to quickly pull up an offshore book just to get you the most up to date. It's now Houston minus 5.5 here for the first game on Saturday afternoon. I really liked Tampa in this game. I thought this was a good spot for Tampa. There's people I respect that have Tampa favored in this game. Now, that was before Aaron Murray got ruled out tonight. I think, after that, I don't think anyone would have Tampa favored. As for who the starter's going to be, I can't imagine that they're not going to go with Quentin Flowers, dual threat. But they went with Cornelius last week on the road, and he just was bad. I can't imagine going back to him, but, the practice reports are pretty indecisive. He went 16 for 27, 154 yards, and 2 picks. I just think you got to go with the dual threat guy here moving forward. That being said, Tampa Bay still does lead the league in offense here. Even last week against Seattle, they only put up 9 points, but they put up 289 yards of offense. They ran 70 plays. So if they can just actually do this thing called scoring touchdowns, that'd be good. We could actually see some points from them. Here, running backs, still time split between De'Veon Smith and Jacquizz Patrick. Really can't touch either one. Wide receivers. Whoops. Let me refresh that real quick. I locked it up myself by rushing. XFL. XFL. Draftkings. Let's go to Tampa and wide receivers. So we have basically Nick Trousdale has been ruled out for this game. So that's the big news here, and it's going to be a big up. It's going to be a big upgrade for Dan Williams. Dan Williams so far in the season, 145 yards receiving on 13 targets. Good yards per target, 11.2. Average of 16.1. Week 2 target share was down a little bit, but Trousdale definitely stole a ton of those targets. Won't be available. And at the end of the game, they went to Dan Williams. Had the touchdown. It was one of the most phantom PI calls I've ever seen in my life. So I like Dan Williams. He's third in the entire XFL in yardage. His price is only $8,200. We'll talk about a bunch of receivers that are higher priced than him. So I don't really think you're not paying the full price here on Dan Williams. I like him a bunch. Reese Horn, good option as well. Target share last week, 23.5%. Here, again, this really just comes down to Tampa's going to have to score some touchdowns to make these guys worth it. But definitely worth noting that you definitely could get that value here. I like Tolliver as well, but he really hasn't been an elite receiver yet. But you're paying a punt price. Don't really mind it here. I think he's got more ceiling with Trousdale out as well. For Houston, Philip Walker is priced all the way to the nose here. $11,500 is just a really strong ask for any quarterback in this league. There's a couple quarterbacks later on that I think are a little bit better. I'm not sure I'm going to totally fade Philip Walker, but if I get any sort of sense he's going to be mega chalk, I think that's when I will kind of just pass here and move on to the next option. So we got to see a bunch of injury reports here. The new injury reports just came out. Nothing really to worry about here in terms of the wide receiver. Cam Phillips is probable, and Sammy Coates will play with that wrist injury. Maybe that's why he keeps dropping the ball. Obviously, the Houston receivers are some of the best receivers in the league. That's really not going to change too much. Cam Phillips has 19 targets through the first 2 weeks, over 27% target share in each of these 2 games. So basically just been absolutely phenomenal here these first few weeks. I just 11-1 for me is where I just wonder if it's worth it, Khalil Lewis has a 20% market share, and he's a bit cheaper. Is it worth it? I mean, again, this is an offense that spreads the football around. Like, I know Cam Phillips caught 3 touchdowns last week, but that's not going to happen every week. You're kind of paying for the full price of Cam Phillips having caught those touchdowns last week. Just not sure it's worth it. I think the guy that I really have interest in is Nick Hawley. Finally moved over from running back to wide receiver here. I mean, he's gotten 10 targets over the first 2 weeks. Yards per target's 9.1. That's pretty good for a guy who's converted from running back. His issue is the target share is a little bit low. But again, on Houston, you're just throwing the football a ton. You don't really need a huge target share. So, does have 10 targets, averaging 5 per game. Pretty solid, nothing great. But again, you're not paying the full stud price. You're only paying $4,400 for him. So, that's a guy I do have a bunch of interest in. And I'm going to cover defenses at the end, just in one big group. All right, let's move on to Dallas. Dallas here at Seattle. Let's see. The line is 4 right now for Dallas. 4-point favorites on the road. 43.5 the total. I love this spot for Dallas. I think this is a really good rebound spot. I think we saw in the fourth quarter in their home last game there at home, or on the road, I'm sorry, at LA, what this offense can do when it's moving correctly with Landry Jones. I think the rust came off. I think we're going to see them play better this week. So Landry Jones, 10-6. It's tough in the XFL to not play the dual threat guys just because of the lack of total scoring. Those rushing touchdowns and conversions that you get are so valuable. But Landry Jones is probably the most likely quarterback to get that 300-yard bonus in the entire XFL. So for me, I like this spot. Seattle's been pretty terrible all season, and I don't really expect that to change. I think that's probably the thing I've been most right about this season. I guess you could argue how good St. Louis is, maybe is the other. But I like this spot for the offense here for Dallas to rebound. Running backs in the XFL, tough to pay for. Payne got 2 touchdowns last week. They did give Dunbar some carries inside the 10. He just didn't convert them. I'm not sure I really want to pay 83 for Cam Artis-Payne, but I'm also not sure I really want to fade him. So that's a player I'm going to kind of have to make a decision on. As we kind of get closer to Saturday and those lineups kind of have to get locked. I like the idea of Cam Artis-Payne. Do I like him as much as losing an elite receiver? That's probably tough. I'm not sure I love him that much. Wide receivers, let me pull up the Dallas injury report real quick here. I have them all right here. Here we go. Jeff Badette is probable, and Darnell Parham is probable as well, which is good news to hear. Parham has been fantastic. 17 targets over the first 2 games, 27% market share in week 2. When Landry Jones came back, the yards per target are low, which is good. He's going to catch more balls, averaging 12 yards a target. I don't really think it's going to continue much. I think he's going to be kind of a guy that keeps moving forward like this. So definitely something I would consider is making sure that you don't freak out on Parham just because he's a tight end. You're using it wide receiver. $5,300 for a player who's got 17 targets so far. I think it's way too cheap. So he's probably one of my favorite plays on Dallas. Badette, I really just kind of want to see him get going. I just want to see him get moving. But again, it's just really tough to fade him. Like, I know he's super talented and he can go off at any time, but he has been fighting this injury. I know he's listed as probable, but he just hasn't done what we saw in the AAF. Is that the difference in talent between the AAF and the XFL, or is it just the way he's been used fighting this injury with his hip? I don't know. And that makes it another tough decision on Jeff Badette this week. His usage last week was just so frustrating to watch, but I know the talent's there, so that's probably a player that I have to really think hard about moving forward if I want to keep playing, especially when you're not getting any sort of a discount here at $8,600. Flynn Nagel's a fine dart throw, but I'm not going to do anything crazy with him probably this week. Seattle. So Seattle's probably the depth chart I think that's had the most news here. So we've got Kasan Williams already ruled out for this game. And then both running backs, Kenneth Farrell and Jaquan Gardner, both practiced in full and are now probable. That's kind of annoying because I kind of wanted to play one of these running backs, but if they're all going to play, there's 3 of them rotating in. You really can't touch either one. Brandon Silvers, of course, worst quarterback in the XFL. Certainly not a player that I'm going to have much of any interest in, really, at any point this season, unless he magically gets good at football. So I'm just going to keep passing on Silvers. You know, in terms of wide receivers, I think the guy on this team you have to consider a little bit more than maybe I did last week is Keenan Reynolds. 7,400. He came off a very rough week 1, but in week 2 he had a 44% target share. Um, average average per target, he has got 15 targets. Average completion is 18.4, but the yards per target is 6.1, which means he's just dropped some short balls, which I don't think is really going to happen moving forward. So there really is some upside here as well in terms of a player like Keenan Reynolds. Boy, I'm a huge fan of Keenan Reynolds. There's still ways you can use him in the double pass, but trusting Brandon Silvers to get him the ball is just not exactly something I really want to do a whole lot of. But if you ask me in terms of ceiling for price, Keenan Reynolds is probably right there as we saw it last week. So, and Dallas is not afraid to give up some points. We saw them concede points to LA last week. So Keenan Reynolds probably a guy I'm going to take a look at here on my teams this week. But probably the only Seattle player I'm really even considering. Austin Proehl, I still think is just way overpriced from that big week 1. And I'm just not going to touch him. I just love everyone else at that price point better than him. Okay, let's move on to New York at St. Louis. So it was 7 points earlier in the week. It is up to 10. The Battlehawks are 10-point favorites here. The total's 40.5, which I think is the lowest total we've seen since basically the totals got bet way up at circa before week 1. So, I mean, that's a 15-point implied team total for the Guardians. St. Louis has sold out this game. I will be there. 30,000 plus. They sold out the entire lower bowl, and they tried to open the upper bowl, just couldn't get concession workers and security on that short notice. Wouldn't be surprised, though, if that upper bowl is open at some point this season if these games keep selling out. 30 to 32,000 is going to be pretty loud in there in that dome. I bring this up because New York couldn't handle the crowd noise in D.C. This is a dome, and it was always loud early on. I can't imagine it's not going to be loud now. This offense isn't good. They basically took advantage of Tampa Bay being worse than them with the turnovers, and then just got run over by D.C. McGloin was complaining on the sideline. Marquise Williams came in. It wasn't any better. There isn't really a ton of talent on this team other than McKay. St. Louis has stifled 2 better offenses than this on the road. Now they're at home. I get New York kind of needs to play well to, get the team out of the, I don't know what to call it. They were just beating each other up last week. During the game, McGloin was calling out the offensive coordinator, which, don't get me wrong, as a fan, I'm sitting here laughing and enjoying, but sitting now here as an analyst, it's like, how do you play any of these guys? You know, I love Mikhail McKay. I've talked him up twice, and hasn't really done anything yet, you know. Good yards per target, 10 targets, solid target share number, 22%, but it's like, they're just bad. I don't know what to do. Joe Horn, I believe, is out. Let me check their injury report. I have it right here. Renegades, Dragons, Vipers, Roughnecks, Battlehawks, Defenders, Guardians. Joe Horn Jr.'s shoulder with a limited practice, and there was no skill players that aren't on the injury report. Darius Victor, who got absolutely crushed on a hit last week, was a full participant today, so looks like he'll go. I think this is the long way of me just saying I'm not rostering any New York players this week. I just don't really see the point, and I'm not really getting a discount on McKay. If McKay was where Kobe Pearson was and was 6,700, maybe I could get myself interested in McKay at a talent price point, but 8,800, I mean, Dan Williams is better. Khalil Lewis is better. Even Rashad Ross, who we'll talk about, who I think is probably going to be the most hot button player of the week, I think I would take over him. So, for me, I just really can't get to a New York player this week. This is the team that I really am just crossing off. For the Battlehawks, some interesting injury news here. So Pearson L has been the top has been the top target so far. He DNP'd here on Thursday. Now, Matt Jones DNP'd on Thursday last week, then came back on Friday as a full participant for the Sunday game. So I don't want to just throw a ton of red flags here yet, but it's worth noting for sure. I'm sorry, that's LaDainian Washington. Why did I say Pearson L? I can't even read the screen. LaDainian Washington DNP with the ankle. Jeez. Good morning, reading comp. LaDainian Washington did not practice, so Pearson L is fine. Sorry about that. So if Washington can't go, the big upgrade will go to Keith Mumphrey, who's been actually playing more recently regardless. So I think Mumphrey would be the big winner there. He would slide into the number 3 slot there, and Brandon Riley is back with the back, was a full participant, and he would move into that number 4 or 5 role, maybe slide in below Marcus Lucas on the target pecking order. Keith Ford practiced in full. Matt Jones practiced on a limited basis. I would imagine Matt Jones is good to go. If he's good to go, it's going to be tough to know how much he's going to work into the backfield. We saw him kind of get phased out in the second half of that game. Last week, he was really hurt, really banged up. And they went to Christine Michael, who was Christine Michael, really didn't do a whole lot. Put up, let me just see what I pull up the numbers here. 38 yards on 15 carries. Just really didn't do a whole lot. But again, in his defense, it's basically what Matt Jones did. But Matt Jones got stuffed a couple times at the goal line late. That average was a little bit better and is a little bit misleading. I personally think that I would play Matt Jones if he's healthy at 7,500, but I'm just not sure he's going to be healthy. I might dabble some Christine Michael in there, even if Matt Jones is a go, just for the upside. If Jones' ankle flares up again during the game, if it doesn't react well to the turf, and they go to Michael for the speed, I think there's some upside there. I'm not going to go crazy in tournaments, but I do think I want some, regardless on the status of Matt Jones. But obviously, if Matt Jones was out, I would love Christine Michael. He would be the number 1 back on the board at that point for me. 10-point favorites. They're really good. Are going to establish the run. This is a team that has run the football more than I wanted them to. Straight up. I was really hoping that the coaching staff was not going to run the football this much, but they just love running the football. What did they run it last week? What is that? 43 times. Granted, 9 of those are quarterback design runs, but 43 run plays in a game that you lost out of 83 plays is just not the ratio I would really hope out of this team. So we'll have to see. But again, if they've been playing well, they put up 390 yards of net offense last week. The defense was solid. The turnovers really hurt them. Pick 6 and another one that was led to another 6 points. But again, that's why I just really like the Battlehawks defense. Houston the first week looked unstoppable, and St. Louis stopped them. Held them to 2 of 10 on third down and did a good job. And the Battlehawks have been super efficient on third down. 11 of 19 in that last game. 3 of 4 on fourth down. That's pretty good. That's good to see that, at least, the aggressiveness. So again, I like this team, but we've seen them only play from behind or in kind of neutral game scripts. Haven't seen them play from in front. I suspect they'll get a little even run heavier. So that's why I just keep staring. I want to play a running back here so bad, but it's just going to be tough to trust Matt Jones after last week just not getting the full workload because he got hurt. And you're paying the full price. You're not getting a discount here. So Christine Michael would be the way I go. In terms of the pass catchers, I like Russell still. He's still too cheap. I like Lucas. I like Mumphrey if Washington's out. Pearson L at 10-1 is probably the interesting play for me. 11 targets last week. Feels a little high, but he still is going to get a bunch of targets. I think he'll be in the 7-8 a game range. Is that worth 10-1 for a slot type guy? Not going to have a huge A dot. Actually, I wonder what it is. Hold on, let me look. He's got yards per target, 7.6. It's actually a little bit better than I thought. But average per reception, only 8.8. He's caught 13 of 15 targets. I think we're kind of paying for the ceiling here on Pearson L. I think I'd rather go back to Russell or LaDainian Washington if he does play. I think it's a good option. But like Russell, 10 targets, 11.4 average, 9.1 yards per target. It's a little bit better. Lower target share, but I just worry that we're paying for the peak target share there. He had a target per share last week at 30%. That concerns me a little bit. But again, Marcus Lucas only had 1 target last week. I think that's going to rise too. So that's the player I would definitely harp on. So Pearson L probably the best play here for St. Louis. And then I would probably go Russell, Mumphrey, and then Matt Jones. But if Matt Jones for some reason get ruled out, Christine Michael, number 1 running back on the entire slate for sure. Okay, we talked about that game for a good amount of time. Let's go to what I think is my favorite game of the weekend here. DC at LA, Sunday Night Football. We'll start with DC here. The current spread is 8-point favorites at LA, total of 44. I think that's a little high. I don't really think DC should be 8-point favorites here. They took care of business against Seattle at home and against New York at home. 2 of what you could argue are the bottom 3 teams in the entire XFL, if not the bottom 2. I think they're getting a ton of respect. They're finally leaving the confines of DC here on the road at LA. I think this game's going to be a little more competitive than people think. So I like Cardale Jones. I think he's going to have to put up points on the board. I like Dontrell Pumphrey. He clearly was the number 1 last week in that game. He got 12 attempts to Presley's 11, but in the passing game, 5-2. So I guess it's a little bit more of a split timeshare, but you're basically paying the same price for each one, so Pumphrey's the better of the 2. Cardale threw it 37 times. They ran it 28 times last week. So a little more pass heavy than run heavy, which is pretty good considering the game script. They were up big the entire way. Passing game, this seems really interesting. So Tompkins came back, took all those intermediate routes from Ross and did them with Rodgers. But Ross, after kind of being a no-show in the first half, got 5 targets, put up 95 yards. Could have had a touchdown if Cardale had put a little more air underneath the ball. And this is the most interesting player I think we have to decide on this week. So Tompkins at 5,700 is a fantastic value. Eli Rogers is just a target monster. What has he got there? 14 targets so far, 22% target share. Good 11.1 per reception, 8.7 yards per target. Just fantastic information, fantastic numbers. He's worth every penny here. We're not really paying for his ceiling. It's not like we're looking at a 30% market share, and then they're like, hey, that's going to regress a little bit. Don't really think that's the case. So, but the real question for me is what we do with Ross. I mean, he's only had 7 targets so far. But the average yards per target is 24.5. I'm sorry. The average per reception is 24.5. But the average per target is 21 yards. Basically, that means they're throwing bombs to him like every time he's targeted. And he's a burner. He could have had a touchdown last week. There was a PI and the other ball was underthrown. Just paying $9,400 for a guy that you're basically counting on catching a 50-yard touchdown is just tough. But then again, if he does it, if he catches that bomb, it's, it could be 4 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown. With the bonus, you're going to have him. That's like 23 fantasy points. He's the hardest player for me to decide what I should be doing with this week. If I had to make my decision now, I would probably tell you I'm going to be overweight the field on him. But it's definitely scary. It's definitely something I don't really want to hang my hat on. If you're heading into the Sunday night game, let's say on DraftKings, and your teams aren't doing as well, and you have some Eli Rogers who will be chalk, a pivot to Rashad Ross to try to hop up the standings and get into the cash, not a bad idea. Or if you're near the top and you're blocked, not a bad idea to get to Rashad Ross to be live. It's definitely boom or bust, but there is a ton of boom in this profile. And just having watched these games, every time Rashad Ross is on the field, they target him on a deep ball. So if he was to even get some more underneath stuff too, he would just be a monster. So think about him. I think he's definitely a strong option, but DC's offense is pretty condensed. Outside of those guys, I'm not going to touch Dupree or Hayward or Lee or anything like that. They had, what is that? Between Rodgers, Tompkins, and Ross, that was good for 22 of their 37 targets. And if you include the running back on that, it's 27 of 37. So, again, this is definitely a pretty condensed, powerful DC Defenders offense here. For LA, so Josh Johnson's only 9,200, which I kind of feel like is a little bit of a discount here, given that before the season, we thought he was the best quarterback. Well, let me phrase that. Most talking heads thought that he was the best quarterback in the XFL. I was a little bit more higher on Jordan Tamu and some of the, not Philip Walker. I did not think Philip Walker was going to be that good. But I thought more of the dual threat guys were going to have success. Maybe that's why I should have liked Walker more. But anyways, Josh Johnson here, good spot against DC. Again, DC gave up 19 points to Seattle. I just think that's pretty bad. Like, I get they played well against New York, but New York was just self-combusting. Like, it really wasn't that impressive a performance. We saw LA kind of get their rhythm going in the second half. It was Josh Johnson's first game. I think this game's going to have some points, and I don't mind Josh Johnson. The reason why I don't necessarily think I have to have Josh Johnson is because, I'm just making sure that there was no Guardians injury, or there was no Defenders injuries that I should have brought up. I got scared, but no, they're good. So, back to LA. The issue here is that Nelson Spruce is just such a target monster. 24 targets, which leads the XFL. 17 catches, which leads the XFL. Targets per game, obviously, at that point, leads the XFL. 192 yards is like 50 more than the next highest, who, by the way, is Rashad Ross. Rashad Ross does have the second most receiving yards in the XFL. Just pointing that out. As crazy as that sounds, even though he's got 7 targets. But just 8 yard per target, 11 average market target share is like 30%, consistent week to week. He's a beast. And I know DC is going to try to take him away, and that's all wonderful and good, but he was so good at Colorado. Anyone that played college football DFS knows he was like the most expensive receiver in that league, and it was awesome. I'm still surprised to this day he didn't make it at the NFL level, because he was just so good in college. Like, really good, like, explosive plays, and it just surprised me. It really did. So it doesn't really surprise me that he's excelling at this level. I remember when he tried out for the Patriots in September of last year. I desperately wanted them to sign him, but oh well. I think he's really good, and as part of this LA offense, I just think he's going to have to be the focal point. And you're not paying the most for him. Like, you'd have to pay more for Cam Phillips. I think Nelson Spruce is the better play at that elite price point. So 10-9, I'll definitely have a bunch of Nelson Spruce here. I like Jordan Smallwood. I think he's a pretty good option. Last week just wasn't his week. He only had 6 targets, but they just didn't go anywhere. 4 catches for 32, which is fine, but it's nothing special. They kind of spread the ball out around a little bit more than I thought they would have. Adonis Jennings is still 3K. He got 5 targets. That's not a bad option. Barnes, Whitfield. But that's why Spruce and Smallwood are the guys that are just almost always on the field. So I want to trust those guys the most. Elijah Hood is... Good question. He's listed as questionable here, but the injury reports just came out. And let's see, he is limited participation. Now it looks like they listed a lot of guys with limited participation here. What is that? That's 1, 2, 6, and 10. So it looks like they're kind of doing the Patriots thing here, where they kind of just don't work all their veterans. Because I see Josh Johnson on here, and he's expected to play. So I'm not going to freak out about that. But I do want to point out that he is limited. If he was to miss, Larry Rose would be the best value running back at 3,500. He's still not getting a whole lot of work. Only got 3 touches last week. But I do want to point out that if Hood was to miss, he would be the heir apparent to that running back role. LA does have Trey McBride, who's a really good receiver. Came back from injury last week, was active, but didn't really play in that game. I wouldn't be surprised if he just started playing in this game, which is why I'm kind of off of Barnes and Whitfield a little bit, because I am a little bit afraid that he could just come in and be that third target for them to go with Spruce and Smallwood. You could argue that that could hurt Spruce, but Spruce has just been so good. I kind of needed to see it before I would demote him. But Trey McBride is super talented. He is 3,300 if he's active. And again, heading into, let's say, Sunday Night Football, you're behind, you're blocked. Maybe is the boom or bust complete YOLO option that you're looking for. Okay, that's it for these games. So let's talk about the defenses. I haven't talked about the defenses. As I kind of go through this, I think it's really only down to two defenses for me. It's the Dallas Renegades against Seattle, just because I have no confidence in Brandon Silver's ability to not throw a pick six. And then the Battlehawks against Matt McGloin in that dome on the road. Basically projected for 15 points. That's really rough. And I got to be honest, that 15 almost feels high just for that how bad that New York offense has been so far. So Battlehawks are probably one for me and the Renegades are two. But those are the only two defenses I can really see myself rostering this week. You can make a case for Houston, but I just think Houston will be too high owned for my taste, and you're paying $5,200 for that defense. I'd much rather use that extra $1,500 to get one of those extra skill players on Houston or St. Louis or DC or LA or even like Dan Williams than to pay $5,200 for a defense. I think that's too high for an XFL defense. Really appreciate you guys watching the Week 3 preview. Feel free to leave in the comments section your thoughts on the show. But if you haven't already, please subscribe and like. It helps us a ton to bring these to you every single week. And with that, guys, we'll be back sooner than you think for Week 4. But until then, enjoy XFL football. Put it on your TVs, please. Help the ratings. I know that they can throw the ball a little bit more, but the potential is so good. Just turn it on your TV. Help those ratings. It really does help the XFL out. It doesn't matter if you watch. Just turn it on. They're not going to care, and they're not going to know. It'll help out those ratings. So with that, guys, I love spring football. I'm just happy it's here. So I don't want it to go anywhere. With that, guys, we'll see you for Week 4. Good luck.